Have you ever stopped to consider that the most widely followed financial advice in the United States is also the most destructive? And what's even more alarming, it's been taught as absolute truth for entire generations, pushed by the media, schools, banks, and even parents. But what if I told you that following this advice might be costing you years, maybe decades, of financial freedom? Today, on the Wealt Wise channel, we're going to shatter that illusion. What you're about to hear isn't just opinion, it's the raw truth, backed by data, real-life stories, and studies from top behavioral finance experts. And if you stick around until the end, I promise your view of money will never be the same. Here at Wealt Wise, we're committed to the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And if this kind of content resonates with you, subscribe to the channel now, drop a like, and share this video with someone who's still stuck in outdated financial thinking. Leave a comment below if you've ever suspected there was something off about how most people handle their money. What we're going to uncover today will challenge everything you thought you knew. The truth is that the worst financial advice Americans still follow is this: save as much as you can, live below your means, and one day you'll be able to retire in peace. Sounds noble, right? Sounds sensible. But it's that exact logic that makes this advice so dangerous, because it sounds like wisdom, but it's a trap built in a world that no longer exists. And maybe you're already feeling that in your own life. That advice came from a time when interest rates were generous, the cost of living was low, job markets were stable, and life expectancy was shorter. It was a world where saving every penny actually made sense, because that penny held real value. But today, in 2025, real inflation is eroding purchasing power, wages have stagnated, and traditional retirement is, for many, an unreachable fantasy. Even worse, that mindset teaches passivity. It teaches people to wait for a someday that might never come. So why does this advice still exist? Because there's an entire system that benefits when you believe your only option is to cut costs, live on the edge, and surrender your financial future to the long term. Banks sell this. Corporations take advantage of it. Even government policy is built around this culture of financial compliance. And in the middle of it all, brilliant, capable, hard-working people continue to believe that the only way out is to sacrifice now for something, anything, 30 or 40 years down the road. But we at Wealt Wise believe the opposite. We believe you must learn to create, not just preserve. To build income streams, invest strategically, and grow assets that work for you, instead of the other way around. The issue isn't with saving. Of course not. Financial discipline is essential. But the problem is when frugality becomes the end goal, as if that alone guarantees freedom. The focus must shift from survival to expansion. I remember a story that captures this perfectly. Back in 2009, I met an American named Patrick. He'd worked 32 years as an accountant for a major firm in Chicago. Patrick followed the rule book to the letter. He saved more than 20% of his salary, never financed a thing, always paid cash, postponed dreams, travel, life experiences, lived simply. At 61, he was getting ready for retirement. Then came 2008, the crash, and just like that, 40% of his retirement fund vanished in weeks. Patrick spiraled into depression, not because he had no money left, but because he felt betrayed. He had done everything right, followed the plan, and still he lost. Sound familiar? What Patrick didn't know, and what many still don't, is that the world changed. And following an old plan in a new world is walking blindly toward failure. The new economy demands new strategies. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into in this video. We're going to show you how to break free from this broken model, how to shift your mindset from scarcity to growth, how to position yourself not just to survive, but to thrive. If you're finding value in this content now, it's the time. Share this video with that one person you love, the one who keeps saying, "I just want to live peacefully, save a little money, and retire someday." Because the peace they're chasing may be costing them the freedom they deserve. And if you're not yet subscribed to Wealt Wise, this is your moment. What we were going to share in the next few minutes could be the breakthrough your financial life has been waiting for. In a study by Thomas J. Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door, he found something surprising. Most American millionaires didn't get rich by saving every penny. They got rich because they learned how to grow their income and invest strategically. In other words, they became wealthy because they learned to play the money game, not because they spent their whole lives cutting lattes. And that's where the real shift begins. In the next segment, we'll start unpacking the origin of this toxic advice. We'll look at how it spread, who created it, and why it's still being reinforced, even though it destroys wealth instead of creating it. And more importantly, we'll start revealing the alternatives, the keys that can unlock the door to real financial freedom. To understand why the advice to save until you can retire gained so much traction, we need to look back. We need to go back to the 1950s and 1960s, when the United States was experiencing the height of post-war optimism. It was a time when the life model was clear. Study hard, get a good job, buy a house, raise a family, work for 40 years, retire with a guaranteed pension, and live your final years with some peace of mind. And in that context, it made sense. Large corporations offered lifelong pensions, retirement plans were solid, and the cost of living was proportional to purchasing power. It was in this scenario that the advice was born. Live below your means and you will have security. But the world changed, and no one told most people. Pensions practically disappeared. Public retirement lost its strength. The cost of living rose, and job stability became a myth. The new economy moves in rapid cycles, demands constant reinvention, and simply no longer rewards those who only save. It rewards those who produce, who learn, who multiply value. Yet this old advice is still sold as absolute truth. And worse, it continues to be promoted by institutions that profit from your blind obedience. Think for a moment. Who profits when you believe you must save every penny and keep your money sitting in a bank account or a long-term retirement fund? Banks, brokerages, fund managers, all the middlemen who capture value while you passively wait for the future to arrive. This is where the most dangerous part of the scarcity mindset comes in. It transfers power. It hands over control of your financial destiny to others. We at Wealt Wise believe it's time to take back that control, because while you live in fear of spending, fear of investing, fear of making mistakes, there is a system that grows exactly on that fear. Have you noticed how the live below your means narrative never comes with a create more value? That's no coincidence. It's because creating value takes work, demands learning, requires courage, and the system doesn't want courageous individuals. It wants predictable individuals, individuals who follow the script. But what if you rewrote the script? What if, instead of thinking about how to save 10%, you use that same energy to figure out how to generate 50% more income? That's the key. The difference between those who struggle their whole lives to survive and those who build freedom is exactly that, focusing on growth, not just preservation. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki says something few dare to repeat. Schools teach you to be a good employee. They don't teach you to be free. And that's exactly why this old advice is so popular, because it fits perfectly into the mold of obedience. Follow the plan, cut expenses, retire late. But when you understand that the system was designed to keep you in that cycle, everything changes. You begin to realize that the path to freedom requires breaking paradigms, including this one. And this is where we start introducing alternatives. Because yes, there is another way. A path that begins with real financial education, with understanding assets and liabilities, with building multiple streams of income and reprogramming your money mindset. The difference between the old model and the new one is that the old one starts with scarcity and the new one starts with creation. The old one says, hold on to what you have. The new one says, create more than you need. And that small shift in perspective has the power to redefine your financial destiny. If you feel like this video is making sense, comment below. I'm rewriting my financial script. That way, I'll know you're committed to this change. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Wealt Wise channel. We have a mission to free you from the advice that keeps you trapped, and this journey is just beginning. In the next part, we'll start exploring real-life cases of people who managed to break free from this limiting pattern. Ordinary people, like you, who dared to step off the script, who traded the idea of saving for the future for the practice of creating in the present. And you'll see how it's possible to live with freedom, purpose, and abundance, without giving up security, but without making it your only goal. We'll also reveal the 3 pillars of building a new financial mindset. And the third pillar is something very few channels have the courage to address. And if up to this point you still think following the traditional advice is the safest path, I invite you to reflect. What security is there in relying on a retirement you don't even know will exist? What security is there in saving for 40 years only to see your money eroded by inflation, taxes, and crises? True security is knowing you can create, adapt, reinvent yourself. It's developing skills that generate value, income, and autonomy. The game has changed, and those still playing by the old rules are falling behind, but you don't have to be one of them. You can be part of a new generation, a generation that understands money, that positions itself strategically, that makes conscious decisions. And that's exactly what we'll keep showing you here on the Wealt Wise channel. Do you remember Patrick, the accountant who lost nearly half of his retirement savings during the 2008 crisis? His story is more common than it seems, but what few people know is what happened next. Instead of resigning himself to the loss, Patrick started learning. He discovered the power of alternative investments, learned about generating passive income, and understood how to build real assets. Even after turning 60, today, at 77, Patrick still works, but by choice. He lives off the income from his assets, gives lectures and mentorships, and proudly says, "I retired the day I stopped waiting and started building." That's the mindset shift we want to spark in you. Here at Wealt Wise, we believe no one should settle for the script they were taught. Life isn't about waiting for security. It's about achieving freedom. And that freedom begins when you realize you can live well today without sacrificing tomorrow if you change your strategy and mindset. But how do you do this practically? There are 3 pillars that support this new financial foundation. And the third pillar, as promised, is something few dare to discuss. The first pillar is an abundance mindset. This isn't cheap self-help, it's neuroeconomics. Studies by Carol Dweck, a professor at Stanford University, show that people with a growth mindset make smarter financial decisions and have greater resilience during crises. That's because they don't see money as a fixed resource, but as something that can be generated, multiplied, and directed. The difference between someone who freezes in a crisis and someone who thrives is how they perceive possibilities. The second pillar is mastering the right assets. You need to know exactly where to put your time, money, and energy. This includes understanding passive income, conscious leverage, digital businesses, investments that generate cash flow, not just future appreciation. The focus shifts from how much will this be worth in the future to how much can this pay me now and how often. When you master the right assets, you start getting paid for what you built, not just how much you work. And the third pillar is perhaps the most powerful, financial protagonism. It means taking responsibility because no one else will do it for you. Not the government, not the bank, not your employer. You are the one in charge. You are the builder. When you realize this, everything changes. You stop being a consumer of generic advice and become the author of your own strategy. Here at Wealt Wise, our mission is to help you become that protagonist. Now listen carefully. This doesn't mean you should go out spending recklessly, ignoring risks or rejecting all forms of saving. It means you need to stop being a hostage to a plan that wasn't made for you and start building a plan tailored to your dreams, your reality, your potential. A plan that lets you live fully today and securely tomorrow. And yes, this is absolutely possible. Have you noticed that every big change starts with a question? So I invite you to ask yourself the question that can transform your financial life. Am I just surviving, or am I truly building freedom? If your answer is surviving, know you're not alone. Millions follow this same worn-out model. But the difference is now you know there's another way out. Now you have the information. And as Warren Buffett said, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. If you've made it this far, it means you're ready. Ready to go beyond penny pinching and start building real wealth. Ready to learn what schools don't teach, what banks don't tell, and what traditional manuals avoid. And if this content has impacted you, if it made sense, then I ask one thing. Subscribe to the Wealt Wise channel right now. Not just because we have much more content like this, but because together we're building a community of people who think differently, who build freedom with awareness, strategy, and purpose. Also, I strongly recommend watching the 2 videos appearing on your screen now. One will dive deeper into the types of assets you can start building today, even with little capital. The other reveals the most common mistakes new investors make and how you can avoid them. These 2 videos are a direct continuation of what we've discussed today and will give you the next pieces of this puzzle. And if you watched until the end, I have a special mission for you. Comment below. I choose not to follow the script. That way, I'll know you're a part of this new generation, rewriting their financial story with courage and clarity. We are Wealt Wise, and we're here to remind you, financial freedom is not a distant dream. It is a daily construction, and it begins the moment you stop following advice that no longer works and start creating your own rules.